Hi and welcome to this Junior Cycle Higher Level Maths Revision video. This video we're going to focus on statistics. So as part of this video we're going to cover the data handling cycle, statistical data, populations and samples, bias, measures of central tendency and measures of spread. For anything got to do with displaying data, charts and frequency tables, I've linked the second statistics video in the description below. So the data handling cycle, and it is a cycle, can begin anywhere, usually with pose a question. We then collect the data, analyze the data and interpret the results. Based on this, we often have to go back and refine our question and then begin the cycle again. Let's look at an example of posing a question. Students in a class were carrying out a survey on sleeping patterns of people aged between 40 and 60 years inclusive. The following questions were considered for the survey. In each case, give one reason why the question is unsuitable and rewrite it in a suitable form. Question 1. Put a tick in one box below to indicate your age in years. The boxes are 40 to 45, 45 to 50, 50 to 55, and 55 to 60. So the reason that this question is unsuitable is actually got to do with its answers. One good thing is that it does give tick boxes. However, those boxes aren't clear. If I were 45 years old, which box would I tick? Would I be correct to tick this box or this box? So when I get my answer, so when I give my answer, I'll make a decision on which box I'll put it in. So the people who are then interpreting the results don't have accuracy around people aged 45. So that is the reason why it's unsuitable, and to correct it, we could simply change this to being 44. We could change this to 49, we could change this to 54, and so on. You could change the starting age if you preferred. You could have left that. Either of those would fix the issue. Part B, normal people sleep 8 hours a night. Do you sleep 8 hours a night? Okay, so this is what we call a leading question. And the reason it's leading is because you're leading whoever is answering to give a specific answer. How they do that is by making a statement that, like normal people sleep 8 hours a night, that somebody would like to prove that they are or are not what you've said. So for example, normal people sleep 8 hours a night. Do you sleep 8 hours a night? If I were to answer no, I will be saying that I'm not normal. So most people would answer yes and not answer accurately. It's important that the questions are not leading in any way. So a better way to put this question would be, how many hours do you sleep a night? On average, anything like that. I'd also suggest that we give options because that will make it easier to group it. So let's say between 0 and 2, maybe between 2 and 4, between 4 and 6 hours. Now we could have a little issue similar to the last one, because of the way we've done that. So you could make a little note, 0 to 2 includes 2. The reason this will be a little bit different is because where would you tick if you had 2.5 hours and your first box was 0 to 2 and then your second box was something like 3 to 4. So 2.5, where does that sit? So you can add a little note to make it correct. Let's move on to collecting data. So here is a summary of statistical data. Data is simply information, and it can be split into two main types, and that is numerical data and categorical data. Numerical is also known as quantitative, so think of quantity, number. Qualitative is another way to say categorical data. We have number data, which is numerical, numbers, and categorical, which is non-numbers or words. Within our numerical data, it is split into discrete and continuous. So discrete means that there are jumps and continuous means that there are no jumps. A really easy way to remember this is for discrete, we usually count, and for continuous, we usually measure. So if it's something you count, discrete; if it's something you measure, continuous. So for example, the number of students in a class, that is discrete. You will count them. The weight of a school bag would be continuous because you measure it. You can't have half a student, and that's why we would consider it discrete. However, it gets complicated when we get into money or when we get into shoe sizes that might have half. So an easier way than thinking of fractions and decimals is discrete, things you count; continuous, things you measure. Underneath categorical data, we have nominal and ordinal data. They are broken down into ordered and non-ordered data. So some word data, it has an automatic or inbuilt order to them. For example, small, medium, large, or first, second, third. Be careful, they are words, not numbers. Example 2, identifying types of data. The number of schools in Carlow can be best described as, well, are they numerical or are they categorical? Well, the number of schools, so we're out with categorical, so let's get rid of these. And then within numerical, is it continuous or is it discrete? So do you count the number of schools or would you measure the number of schools? And the answer is count, so it is discrete and numerical. Question 2, the variables uses public transport and sex are both numerical variables, a categorical and a numerical variable respectively, a numerical and categorical variable respectively, both categorical variables, or neither a numerical nor a categorical variable. Okay, so let's think of the answer. So uses public transport would be yes or no. Maybe it will be sometimes, never, something like that, but it is categorical. So uses public transport, categorical. With sex, it's male, female, etc. So therefore, again, it will be categorical. So these are both categorical variables. Example 3. So if you want to practice this, why not pause the video and see if you can answer these questions and then check to see if they're correct. So hair color, is that categorical or numerical? And think of what the answer would be. It could be blonde, brown, red, black, etc. So it's categorical. And then within that, is that nominal or ordinal? Will the answers be ordered in some way? Is there an inbuilt order to color? And the answer is no, so it's nominal. The number of tourists to Ireland in 2017. So that is going to be numerical. The number of, you would count them. So anytime you see the number, it's always going to be discrete because that's counting. The average height of trees. So if you get the height, it's going to be a number, so it's numerical. You measure the height, so it is continuous. Favorite TV programs. So that's going to be categorical. And again, if you list out your TV programs, is there an inbuilt order? And that's no, so it's nominal. Air codes. Now, this is a tricky one because it does have numbers, but also letters. So it's actually categorical. Is there an order to them? And actually, no, there is no order. I think in some countries we do have more of an order, but for us, I think they're quite random in how they're put there. So it's nominal. The number of people unemployed in August. So number is numerical. The number means we're counting, so it's discrete. Wages, they are numerical. Now, here again, when we talk money, we will count it, so it's discrete. It has decimal places, and that's okay, but if we think of the smallest piece of our money as 1 cent, then effectively our cents are always whole numbers. The number of houses built in Ireland in 2016, that is numerical. Again, you're counting, so it is discrete. Favorite band, the answer will be categorical. And again, there's no order to it, so it is nominal. Your rank in a race, first, second, third, that's actually categorical, not numerical. Be careful. First, not one, it's first, second, third. Think of what year you're in school. There is an inbuilt order there because coming first puts you ahead of somebody coming second and so on. So this is ordinal. Average summer temperatures, that is numerical, and we measure temperature, so that is continuous. Let's talk about data. You may have already discussed this or have learned about this in history class. Primary data is data that's collected firsthand. You may have done a survey, you've given an interview. The thing about primary data is you know how it's obtained and you know how accurate it is. However, it can be very time consuming and also very expensive. Secondary data is basically second-hand information. So it's data that has already been collected by somebody else and that you then use. So that might be the newspaper, government, basically when you Google. Secondary data is really easy, really cheap, but it can be out of date, it could have mistakes, it may be biased, and we'll talk about that in a second, and you don't know how it was collected. So let's talk about a population versus a sample. When we talk about a population, it's everybody who you would like to know about. So if I was talking about the population of the school, it's everybody in the school. The population of a particular year group, that's everybody in the year group. The population of students who study French, that is every student who studies French. The problem with asking the population something, although it's really, really accurate, it's very time consuming and very, very expensive. We have one survey that actually asks the full population of Ireland questions, and that is the census. And that takes quite a long time to put together. It's a huge body of work. It's quite expensive and it's not done very often. The alternative is to sample. So to use smaller pieces of the population to figure out what the whole population is doing. So it is important when selecting the sample that you're not going to be biased. So bias means leaning towards one side or the other. So if I wanted to do a survey to see if maths was the most important subject in Irish schools, I might want to make sure that my answer is yes. So I might ask students who I know will answer the way I want them to answer. That's not a good way to approach a survey. I want to ask a random group of people so that their answers will reflect what most students would think. So here's an example. If I decided to use my local GAA club to find a sample of how much time teenagers in Ireland spend playing sport, then my results will be biased and I would have a much higher number of hours using this sample compared to the actual population. And the reason for that is I'm standing outside somewhere where people are going in to be active, to spend time playing sport. While if I randomly stopped people on the street, I'd have a better sample. If I ask my local chess club, then the results will be biased, but I would get a much lower number of hours compared to the actual population. So you don't want to ask people who don't play sport. You don't want to ask just people who play sport. You want to get a mix that represents the population. So here's a random sample. So how would we carry out a good random sample? So we would number each member of the population. We would choose a number at random. We could, if you want to, put all the names of everybody into a hat and then take out somebody from the hat. That's also perfect. But step 3 is really important. You have to replace each number. And the reason for that is because if you don't replace it, then the probability of the next person being chosen is going to be different to the probability of the first person being chosen. So you need to make sure that each member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. If the number or person is drawn a second time, it's not used again, it just goes back in. So it might seem a bit pointless, but from a probability point of view, what we're doing is ensuring that there is the same probability each time we select a number or a name. So bias, and we've talked about this a little bit, is when we talk about sampling, is anything that is unrepresentative or unsuitable. Okay, so it doesn't represent the population or it's not suitable. A sample can be subject to a person bias when the person doing the investigation purposely chooses an unsuitable sample. So again, if I wanted to see how many hours students spend studying maths, I would maybe only ask higher level students, and then that's going to give me a much higher number than maybe the whole population would have. Unintentional bias is found with random sampling, and is when a sample is biased but not on purpose. So we can get bias. So random is not perfect, but it's less likely to happen, but it can happen, but it is unintentional. So now let's talk about analysing the data, and we're going to look at measures of central tendency. So there are 3 measures of central tendency that you need to know, and these are known as averages. Now, in primary school, you learned about the average, and the average has now been renamed. We now have averages. So there is an umbrella here of averages, and what we'll learn are different types of averages, and the 3 we need to know are mean, median, and mode. So mean is what we would traditionally have thought of as the average. It's adding and dividing. There's a really nice little video that's done in a nursery rhyme that can help you remember mean, median, and mode. I will link it in the description below. So mean is also known as average, and I use that in inverted commas because it's not the average, it is an average. But mean is where you add and divide by the number of numbers, and that's the one we're probably most familiar with. If somebody asks you to get an average, you'll add all the numbers together and then divide by the number of numbers. So let's do a quick example. What is the mean of this set of numbers? 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we're going to add them together. So when I add 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8, I get 30, and then I'm going to divide it. I like doing my division like a fraction. You don't have to do it like that. You can use divide sign. So by 5, and when I add these together, I got 30 divided by 5, and it gives me 6. It's just a neater way of writing it than adding and then showing your division. Especially at higher level, we've moved a little bit more beyond that. So median, to find the median of a set of numbers, we must first write the numbers in ascending order. So that's from smallest to biggest. The median is the middle. So if you think of the word, median is in the middle. It has those D's, so it can help you remember it. So what is the median of this set of numbers? So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to write them in ascending order. 3, I like to cross off as I use them because otherwise I will end up leaving something out. I might still leave something out, but I'm less likely to do it when I cross them off. So that's the top tip. Now, there are here 5 numbers, so we do have a middle number. My middle number is 4, so this is the median. It is the middle. If there was an even number of numbers, so 6, then there isn't one middle part, so it would appear between 2 numbers, and we'll get the mean of the middle 2 numbers. I'll show you an example of this. So what is the median of this set of numbers? So here we have 6 numbers. So again, we're going to put these in ascending order. That is 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6. Now, because there's an even number, halfway sits exactly here between the 3rd and the 4th number. So in order to get the median, we take these 2 central numbers and we do the mean of these numbers. So we do 4 plus 5 and then divide by 2, which gives us 4.5 or 4.5. Mode is the number that appears the most. So again, if you use this word correctly, it'll help you remember it. So mode is the most. So what is the mode of this set of numbers? And the answer is 4, because the 4 appears the most. Mode is a very useful measure of central tendency because it's the only one that we can use on categorical data. So if I ask you what's the average hair color, it's like, well, what do you mean average? Like, we can't add and divide hair colors. However, mode is a type of average. So we could say the modal, which is its adjective form, modal hair color is red, is brown. And it will tell us the one that appears the most. So we have what's called a normal distribution, and this is a symmetrical bell-shaped distribution where mean, median, and mode sit right here in the center. And this might look familiar because we see lots of the normal distribution drawn. It represents a lot of things, so IQ, often grades can sit in this kind of distribution. But in the middle part where it's really, really tall, that's where it's the mean, the median, and the mode. We then have skewed distribution. So skewed means off center. So it's like somebody took the normal distribution and pulled it out to one side. And the side that was kind of pulled out, that is representing the skew. So the first one there is left skew or negative skew because that tail is on the left or on the negative side. And the second one there on the right is right skewed because the tail is on the right and it's positive skewed. The mode is always the tallest point and that will never change. Then comes the median and then the mean, and that's always along the skewed part. So we have mode, then mean, median, then mean, and in left skew we have it going the opposite way. Let's talk about measures of spread or variability. So these are measures that look at how spread out our data is. Now there's only one measure of spread that we need to know for the junior cycle higher level course, and that is range. This is the difference between the highest and the lowest value in the data set. So the range of a set of numbers, as we discussed, is the difference between the highest and the lowest. For example, what is the range of this set of numbers? So it's the biggest number, which is 8, subtract the smallest number, which is 4, which gives us a range of 4. Example 4, a mean, median, mode, and range exam style question. The following 6 numbers have a median of 15, a mean of 18, and a range of 30. They are given in increasing order. So increasing order is the same as ascending. Find the value of A, the value of B, and the value of C. So the first thing we're going to do is work with the first piece of information, and that is that the median is 15. So just to give myself a bit more space, I'm going to draw out this sequence of numbers again. So the median is the middle, which will be halfway, but since there are 6 numbers, it will sit in here. So I know that when I add 14 plus B and divide it by 2, the answer will be 15. In order to get rid of that 2, I'm going to multiply both sides of my equation by 2. So 14 plus B equals 30. So B is equal to 30, take away 14, so B is 16. So I'm going to update my B now to 16. Now, the second piece of information is that the mean is 18, and the third piece of information is that the range is 30. So the range, I'll just label this, so this was our median calculation. So the range is the biggest number, C, take away the smallest number, A, and that will give us 30. If we want to work with the mean, now this is something that is really important and will help simplify your questions. When I know I have a mean of 18, what that actually means is if each of these 6 numbers were given an even share, they would all be 16, but they will all be 18. So when I know the mean of a set of numbers, I also know the total. So the total of any set of numbers is the mean multiplied by the number of numbers, because that's how the mean is calculated. We have 6 numbers, and if they were all 18, it would add to the same total as what they were. So that means all of these numbers add up to 108. So we have A plus 8 plus 14 plus 16 plus 26 plus C equals 108. So we've created another equation. Simplifying this gives us A plus C plus 64 equals 108. I'm going to take away a 64 from both sides and we get A plus C equals 44. We now have simultaneous equations. We have two equations with two unknowns. So let's solve that. To make it a little bit easier, I flipped equation 2. So instead of A plus C equals 44, I wrote C plus A equals 44. It aligns better then with equation 1. We get a straight elimination with our A's without having to do anything. And we get 2C is equal to 74. Divide both sides by 2 and C equals 37. Now that I know C, I can go back to either equation and I know 37 take away A is equal to 30. Therefore, minus A is equal to 30 take away 37 minus 7. So A is equal to 7. So A is 7. B, remember we worked that out first, was 16. And C is equal to 37. So this is an example of how mean, median, mode, and range could be asked at higher level. Example 5. The following 5 numbers have a median of 6 and a range of 9. They are in increasing order. Find the value of x and the value of y. So 2, 2, x, 7, and y. The median, the middle, is 6. Okay, it's important to only do this when you know that they are in increasing or ascending order. So this is my median, which we know is 6. Now, working with the range is the biggest, which is y, minus the smallest, which is 2, and that will give us 9. So y is 9 plus 2, adding a 2 to both sides. So therefore, y is 11. So x equals 6, y equals 11.